In this series, called 30-Minute Masterpieces, we explore artworks that can be completed within a 40-minute class period. Welcome to Painting with Janine Liza. In this class, we create a chart for and do a painting with values of the same color. Materials: watercolor paper taped down to a board, paper towel, 2 brushes, 3/4 inch flat brush and size 3 round brush, pencil, a ruler, water, a palette, and we'll be using some violet paint for this project. We're going to start by creating a drawing with the pencil. We're going to make the chart area, draw the balloons, and the cityscape. Starting with the ruler, I'm going to put a line down this side of the paper. Then I'm going to look for the center, or roughly the center, just to divide this up into 4 parts. So I'm going to put a dot roughly around the center, and then a dot around the middle of the 2 sections that separation creates. I'll get the ruler and put some lines here. First separating in half, then into quarters. These don't have to be exact, it's just for the color chart. I'm going to put another line underneath those lines so that we can have gaps between the spaces where the color values will be. This will prevent the color values from running into each other. And there we have it. We have the spaces with the gaps for the 4 different values. Now I'm going to put a line across the base of the page, and this is going to be a cityscape. So I'm going to create first this line and then turn the ruler around, use the end to create the illusion of sort of a horizon of buildings. Just adjusting the ruler to make different heights of buildings. So some will be taller and some will be shorter, and you can leave gaps between them as well. There we go. Now I'll make this one a little taller and keep going along until you run out of space. Now I'm just going to erase part of the horizontal line where the buildings are. I'll just clean it up with a bit of paper towel, and next I'm going to draw some balloons floating above the city in the sky. I'm going to make sure I leave space for at least 4 balloons. It's kind of like when you're drawing a little fish and you sort of draw the fish and then you do the little tail at the end by crossing the lines. That's similar to how you can draw a balloon. And if the oval shape of the balloon doesn't turn out right the first try, just erase a little bit and adjust it a little. until you get them just the way you want them. Now I'm going to add a bit of twirly ribbon tied to each balloon. Let's also add some little birds to the sky. We'll do some larger and some smaller to give the painting a little bit of depth. It'll look like the birds are flying in from a distance. This next part is optional and only necessary if your pencil marks are very, very strong. If you'd like to lighten them up before you paint, you can just take off a little bit of it by gently erasing, as long as you can still see your original image. You'll want to brush all the little bits of eraser off your board before you start, but be careful not to knock over your water in the process. And here you can see the balloons are still visible. I've chosen violet for this painting of values, but you could also use dark blue, dark red or dark green. You're going to squirt a drop onto the palette. With your size 3 round brush, cover the hairs in the purple paint and then wipe it all off into one palette hole. You're going to do this in 4 palette holes, coating the hairs of the brush in the strong, full intensity of the paint and putting it into a palette hole. So each palette hole has basically the same amount of paint. Now it's time to add the water. Using the 3/4 inch flat brush and some clean water, I'm going to start with the first value, the lightest one. I'm going to put 5 drops in the palette hole, being careful to scrape off all the water off the brush hairs as I go, to make sure that it fills it up nicely. The next palette hole is going to have 3 drops. The next palette hole will have 2 drops. And the next palette hole, just 1 drop. So you can see we have the same amount of paint in each palette hole, but different amounts of water. If the second and the third values end up a little bit too close to each other in colour, we can adjust them a little. There's the first one. Let's stir the second with the small brush. There's the second, and you can see the difference between the two. Third one. That's a little bit darker, a little bit more intense. And the last value, which is going to be the strongest one. It's got the least amount of water, so it's going to be a fuller, stronger concentration of the paint. There you go, that's pretty intense. 4 values, and now we're ready to paint. Starting with the first and lightest value, I'm going to fill in the colour chart, remembering to leave the little gap between sections empty so that the values don't run into each other. And there's a lovely colour chart for the painting. 4 values getting stronger. And now we'll paint the balloons in a similar way, starting with the lightest value on the first balloon. I'll also demonstrate how to paint a shine on your balloons. To create a shine on the balloon, or the illusion of a shine on the balloon, you'll need to create some curved lines that support the shape of the balloon, leaving a space white. You can either divide this into 2 little pieces or have one curved white section on the side of the balloon. This gives the illusion that there is light coming from a certain direction, so you'll need to put this on the same side of all the balloons. And then just continue to paint the rest. That's the first value. Now to the next, stronger value. Because this balloon is tilting, the shine will have to be closer to the top of the balloon than at the side. Now all 4 balloons are painted, you can see the values getting stronger, and it's just beautiful. I love it. So now we're going to paint the twirly lines that are the ribbons coming off the bottom of the balloons. And we're going to use the strongest values so that they stand out nicely. Try to use the very tip of the brush, barely touching the paper, in order to get fine lines. There we go. Now I'm going to paint the birds with the strongest value of the colour. To make sure the paint really doesn't run, I'm going to touch the edge of the metal and the edge of the brush with a bit of paper towel, just to drain a little bit of the liquid off without losing the colour, before I paint the birds. This helps the paint to come off the brush smoothly from the tip without running. And the last part of the painting I'm going to do, using the full intensity of the colour, is going to be the cityscape. Now, we might be low on paint, so you can scoop up the rest of the strongest value if you're running low and put it in that last palette hole. With just a tiny bit of water, it will be the same value. I'm using the small brush for the outlines and the larger brush to fill the larger spaces. Now it's done, you can see this lovely example of creating different values of one colour. You have a nice chart and a nice picture to go with it. I've really enjoyed designing and creating this project, and I hope you've enjoyed it too. Thank you for viewing and/or trying out this art project. If you'd like to find more projects like these, please go to Art with Janine Liza on YouTube.